The court loved games, especially the ones that pretended not to be dangerous. Today's was called the Circle of First Blood, a mock duel played with blades, where honor was tested and grievances disguised as sport. Evren hadn't wanted to join, which of course made them insist. He stood barefoot on the polished stone ring at the center of the training hall, surrounded by nobles leaning against carved pillars, fanning themselves lazily as if watching horses race. Kael was among them, seated in shadow, watching. The opponent was Lord Halric Dren, a broad-shouldered war noble whose face always looked like he was sucking on a lemon. Evren knew the type, blunt, proud, easily insulted, and itching to prove something in front of his emperor. The wooden blades were long and curved, meant to sting, not break. Evren took his without ceremony. The match began with a call from the steward. Evren let the first 3 strikes pass, light, probing attacks. He parried with minimal effort. Elegant, quiet, cold. Halric grunted with frustration. The crowd chuckled. Then the 4th strike came, too fast and hard. The blade caught Evren across the ribs, a crack of wood on bone. Pain lit through his side. Blood started. It wasn't deep, but it was sharp. It ran in a thin red line down his skin, soaking into the sash at his waist. Evren stepped back once, said nothing, and dropped his blade quietly. The steward called the match. Halric stood with one hand raised, clearly waiting for praise. But the room was silent. All eyes turned to Kael. The emperor sat still, his face unreadable. Then he stood, and without a word, he left. The crowd murmured. Halric turned pale. Evren pressed one hand to his side and walked off the ring. He didn't limp and didn't look back. Evren didn't ask for help. He walked back to his chambers with blood soaking through the side of his robe, one hand pressed lightly to the wound. It stung, but not enough to stop him. When the guards outside his door offered assistance, he waved them off. "I've had worse," he said. It was true. He closed the door behind him and exhaled slowly. The silence inside was thick, familiar. He peeled off the robe with careful fingers, letting it drop to the floor. The fabric clung briefly to the blood before falling away. The cut was shallow, just above the ribs, angry, red, ugly. He found a cloth, pressed it against the wound, and sat by the window. He expected silence. What he didn't expect was the knock. One knock. Then the door opened without waiting. Kael stepped inside, holding a small lacquered box in one hand. He closed the door behind him. He came alone. Evren didn't move. "You could have sent someone," he said. Kael crossed the room. "I don't trust anyone else with your blood." Evren raised an eyebrow. How poetic. Kael ignored the comment. He knelt beside the chair and opened the box inside. A clean cloth, glass jar of salve, thin rolls of bandage, all neatly arranged. Evren watched him. "This is beneath you," he said softly. Kael didn't answer. He dipped the cloth in warm water from the basin and wrung it out. His hands were steady. When he reached for Evren's side, Evren didn't flinch, but his breath hitched just slightly when the damp cloth touched skin. Kael said nothing. He worked in silence, dabbing the wound, careful not to press too hard. His fingers brushed skin once. Then again. It wasn't mercy. It was something else. And neither of them named it. Kael's touch was quiet. He is touching gently wit focus. Evren watched him work, watching the way his brow furrowed slightly as he cleaned the wound, the way his lips pressed into a line, not from anger but from thought. "You've done this before," Evren said with voice low. Kael didn't look up. "Enough times." "Your own wounds?" Kael nodded once. "Others too." Evren leaned back slightly. letting his ribs stretch despite the sting. Hard to picture the great Emperor Kael kneeling in front of someone else. Kael met his eyes then. Only kneeling is not the same as surrendering. He dipped the cloth again. Evren hesitated, then asked, "Was it war?" "Once," Kael said. "I was 16. My commander thought we could hold a mountain pass with half a force." He paused, wringing out the cloth. "We lost. A week of fighting, and we lost everything but the rock under our feet." Evren's voice was soft. "And what did you learn?" "That starving men pray faster than well-fed ones." He glanced up. "And never trust a man who promises you the high ground. It usually means he's already standing on it." Evren huffed a quiet laugh. "That sounds like my uncle." Kael raised an eyebrow. "The one who tried to poison your father?" "No," Evren said, smiling faintly. "That was the other uncle." Kael chuckled just once, short and dry. The silence that followed was different. Still sharp, but not unfriendly. Evren shifted slightly. "I used to sneak out of the palace when I was 12. There was this baker in the lower quarter who sold honey bread for a single copper." Kael pressed the cloth against the wound again. "Did you wear a disguise?" "A scarf and arrogance," Evren said. "Mostly arrogance." Kael was smiling now, just a little. "And what happened?" he asked. Evren paused. "I gave the baker a fake name," he said. "He pretended not to know who I was." "Kind and smart," Evren replied. "If he'd bowed, I never would have gone back." Kael said nothing for a moment. Then, "What name did you use?" Evren's voice dropped. "Kael." The Emperor looked up, still. Their eyes held, and for the first time, neither of them moved to break the silence. Kael wrapped the bandage carefully, his fingers pulling it snug against Evren's ribs. Each motion was precise. He tied it off and sat back slightly, palms resting on his knees. Evren let out a breath he hadn't noticed he was holding. "You're good at that," he said. Kael gave a slight nod. "Practice." Evren watched him in the candlelight. For a moment, Kael looked tired. Not weakened, no crown. Just a man kneeling beside a wound he didn't cause and choosing to stay there anyway. Kael reached for the cloth again. His hand brushed Evren's as he picked it up. Neither pulled away. It wasn't a touch meant to stay, but it did. Kael met his gaze. Quiet. Open. Evren didn't look down. He didn't dare. The air between them had changed. Slower but thicker. Something unnamed passed between them again. No blade, no poison, no advantage. Just a pause. Too long to be nothing. Too short to be admitted. Kael stood. He didn't speak. He closed the lacquered box, gathered the cloths, and walked to the door without a sound. Evren stayed seated. The door opened, then closed. The silence after was louder than footsteps. Evren didn't move. He stared at the place where Kael had just been. His skin still hummed from the ghost of that touch. He whispered nothing, thought too much, and didn't sleep.